Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a company. And today we have with us Aditi Sinha, who is the co founder at Locale.ai, which is a sales automation platform that uses AI agents to streamline the sales process. Hi, Aditi. Welcome to ELI.
Hi Priya, nice to be here.
To start with, Aditi, would why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Would love to hear about your background, your journey as an entrepreneur from the very first day. Tell us about your childhood. Where did you grow up? Where did you study? And how did you eventually get into entrepreneurship?
Oh wow, so we're going all the way back. Okay,
Yes, yes.
so I actually grew up in Patna,
Mm-hmm,
and I studied over there until my 10th grade, and then I was preparing for JEE.
mm-hmm,
I didn't get a really good rank in JEE, so I went to BITS Pilani instead. But very interestingly, when I went to BITS, I realized that I didn't really enjoy preparing for JEE and that, competitive exam. And, because of that, that really like took the joy away from studying engineering. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I actually took up economics. But in BITS,
mm-hmm,
actually, you have a system where, you can take an engineering degree along with your eco degree, which most people do. But because I already had gone through the experience and I had realized that I don't want to do that anymore, I
mm-hmm,
just took up eco, right?
mm-hmm.
Which gave me a lot of time and freedom to explore and experiment and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So,
Interesting.
I did a lot of internships. I took up a lot of projects on campus. I was just exploring, right? Entrepreneurship was actually not in the cards for me at all. But
Mm-hmm,
just that sometimes things just happen, on their own. So in my final year of college, I was interning in this company called Social Cops, which is now called
mm-hmm,
Atlin. And in that time, actually, I met my co-founder. And we were working on a bunch of projects together, and we saw this problem that, ground operations teams in delivery companies, mobility companies, hyperlocal companies don't have a specialized sales product that is built for them. But if you
mm-hmm,
take any other team in a company, from design, data, marketing, HR, sales, finance, all of these teams have specialized products that are built for their workflow. So the
mm-hmm,
idea of Locale started, that let's build something for these people because we had seen they were using, Excel sheets, internal tools, and all of that.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but given, I was very fresh out of college, right? So I actually had gotten converted to a full-time role, from my internship. And I probably worked over there for like 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. I don't remember. So,
Mhm,
given I didn't have a lot of personal runway, right, of my own, my
mhm,
goal was very simple that I'm going to try this out for 6 months. And most probably nothing is going to work out, is what I had told myself. I was only
mhm,
23, right? So, I thought I was a kid and I'm just trying something, really interesting early on in my career. That is what my outlook was. So
mhm.
I'd assume it will not work out, but I still thought I'll be better off because I would go back and get a job, right? And I'll get a
Okay.
better job because maybe I would have learned a lot of things in the process. So this was
Mhm,
my idea. I
mm,
was in Delhi then, so I came from Delhi to Bangalore, didn't know anyone, uh, and then started on going on this journey.
mhm,
And I didn't really completely realize how the 6 months really became 5.5 years. These 5.5 years were very crazy, lots of ups and downs, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of fun.
mm,
We worked on two ideas. So we pivoted from this idea that I told you about. We worked on a different idea. We raised about, $5 million in VC funding. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey. Last year, actually, we decided to, return the capital back to the investors.
mhm.
And yeah, and basically, I've been figuring out what's next for me. since then.
So I understand you are also shutting down the shop because what went wrong? Did the company not work? Was the product not right? Were
Mhm.
the customers not liking the product? What happened?
Yeah, sure. So I'll maybe tell a bit about the 5.5 year journey itself. So
Sure.
this idea that I told you about, we basically worked on this. We reached a very decent revenue, to be honest. We had a lot of international customers,
How much?
but after a while, the growth rate started becoming very low, right? And then we diagnosed and we realized that it's because our market size was much smaller than what I had assumed, right? And to be honest, when I started this idea, I didn't even think so much about the market size. I didn't even know that you had to focus on ideas that have very large markets when you raise VC funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had thought that, we'll be able to expand into adjacent markets, but that was not really working out. But we had this one module in the product around alerting, which was selling really well, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we thought we'll take that module out and we'll build a new product and we'll build it not just for ground operations, but for business operations. So like we
Mm-hmm.
build like a horizontal product that would be used by, let's say, edtech, fintech, D2C, logistics, all of that. Uh, so I don't know if you know this product called PagerDuty that a lot of DevOps teams use. Anytime there's
Mm-hmm.
any problem in the infrastructure, they get alerted. And then there are
Okay.
there are workflows on top of it. So you can resolve it, you can escalate it, you can collaborate on it, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So the idea of
Okay.
that product was very inspired by this PagerDuty as a product. And the idea was to build PagerDuty but for business operations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we basically pivoted, um, and essentially, that idea worked for a little while. Um, so we wanted to build this product bottoms up, right?
Okay.
But what we started realizing was that, you know, the pain point was actually being faced by the operations managers, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be proactive about their issues, who wanted to get alerts on, their problems before it reached the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the decision making authority was with CXOs. Now,
Right.
because of that, this became like a multi stakeholder sales problem, right? Where we
Mm-hmm.
had to get buy in from ops people, from the CXO, and that led to like very large enterprise sales cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because we wanted to sell this product bottoms up and we had discovered what the pricing should be, people were not willing to pay as much for the enterprise sales cycle time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we obviously hustled our way and got like a first set of customers. But then after a while, when we started actually scaling, we realized that, hey, we cannot scale sustainably. The unit economics is not working out. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the problem with the second idea. Very similar fate, actually. We reached like a decent revenue mark, but it was not growing that fast.
Mm-hmm.
Then we still had about 2 million in the bank. And then we were like, what do we do now, right? So, we had realized that sales is something we knew really well because we've been doing it for the last 5 years, right? And we knew the problems that salespeople really faced in their workflows. So we were like, we'll
Mm-hmm.
build an AI product for salespeople. And we started working on that. We started validating the problem, we started building the product. But the problem that actually happened was both me and my co-founder, we felt really, really burnt out, right? To do
Mm-hmm.
another 0 to 1 journey from scratch. And
Understood.
these 4.5 years had been really crazy, right? We had seen 3 waves of COVID, recession, and lots of like, near death moments for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just not ready to do another 0 to 1 idea. And yeah, like I still pushed for a while. But you have to be honest with yourself. And when I did that analysis, I realized that my performance is not as on power, as compared to the previous two ventures, right? And I just felt it was not the right thing to do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, both of us discussed, me and my co-founder, on what should be the path ahead, and we went to the investors and we were like, if even if we build a company like this, it will not be right. And if we are feeling like this at the start, what's going to happen when real obstacles and problems and challenges come in? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, burnout is real. It is very, very real, and it can have like dire consequences and impact on you if you don't recover from it, if you don't fix it. And
Right.
so yeah, we decided to return the capital and just, take some time off to rest, recover, heal.
Got it. This is interesting because I also had a similar experience back in 2020 when one of the companies I was working for, they also had a similar situation. Like you mentioned, the unit economics did not work out. After a point where we had spent a lot of money into marketing,
Mm-hmm.
we had acquired some customers.
Mm-hmm.
There were live customers on board, but eventually we realized it's not working out. The whole plan was not going to work out.
Right.
Financials were not mapped correctly.
Mm.
So that's how we also shut down our company, and we all went to our individual paths. Everybody sort of joined companies to other companies as employees. And one underlying thing I also realized was I think there were four co-founders. They were all burnt out, and they did
Mm.
not have that energy to again experiment and do something, because
Yeah.
this venture was running for last 4 5 years.
Yeah.
And you don't as a founder, you don't get to take home a great salary also. So your personal dreams, ambitions also take a pause. During that time you are simply building,
Yeah.
building. So I can relate to what you are saying. Tell me, how did the shutdown process? I think you are currently in the phase of shutting the shop,
Yeah.
and I can relate it from my past experience. When we had decided to close, we
Mm.
had to move the customers. Very honestly, we told the customer that we are closing, and the honorable thing to do was to send them to another vendor just like us,
Mm-hmm.
who could provide the same amount
Yeah.
of service. Then there were people in trial. There were
Yeah.
vendors who had not received the payment. There were employees
Yeah.
who had not received the payment. So can you tell us about that particular stage? Because every founder has to be prepared for one day that will come
Yeah.
when they might have to shut the shop.
100%. Um, so we actually did a lot of research, by the way, on what would be the right way to go about this. We spoke to a bunch of mentors and
Uh-huh.
advisors. Actually, there are, I would say, four types of stakeholders that you need to manage throughout this process, right? And even if before you do all of this, you and your co-founder need to be on the same page as to, this is the process or the step that makes the most sense. And
Mhm,
both of us want this, right? So I am assuming that, that part of the process is figured out. You both are on the same page and you have decided this is best for both of you and the company. Now,
mhm,
once that is done, the first set of stakeholders that you need to go and meet is and tell that this is what you've decided. Now, there can be two situations. One, if the company is running out of cash, and the other is like in our case when we decided to just return capital.
mhm,
You need to go and tell the investors, right, that this is the reason and we have decided to shut the company down. Of course, when you're out of cash, they will not say anything. In our case, our investors had a lot of questions for us. Okay, why are you guys doing this? Is there no other solution? Maybe you can take a break, all of that. So we spoke through all of that, and we just all of us then came to this conclusion that this is the best for everyone, right?
mhm,
Then once the investors are on the same page, and in our case, we had institutional investors and angel investors. So, we made sure that we told all the investors and all our angel investors. Now, once that is done, the
mhm,
next part of the process is to go and inform the next stakeholder, which is your team, and make sure that there's not enough gap between your angels and the team, because you wouldn't want your team to know all of this from someone else, right?
mhm,
So we made sure we did all of this in person. We called the team in office and sat them down. We told them, hey guys, this is the situation, and unfortunately this is what we've decided to do.
mhm.
Of course, that's like one of the hardest days ever when you're running a
Yeah.
company. um, but yeah, in our case, we made sure that all of them had, good interviews or good opportunities lined up. So,
Mhm,
for example, like one actionable tip I can give is, we had made a spreadsheet, and for each
mhm,
of our team members, we had like a personal testimonial that we had written for all of them. on, what are
Wow.
the things that they're actually good at. And then we floated that spreadsheet, to different founder groups that we were part of, or investor groups, who then shared it subsequently to their founders, right?
Hmm.
And honestly, like in just a month or so, most of the team was placed. Um, so that is something we actively worked on. Like that was like one of our biggest priorities. Now, once the team is taken care of, and in all of this, once you've told them, the next step is then to inform your third stakeholder, which is your customer. So for
Hmm.
customers, you need to basically, devise a plan on how are they going to migrate. So there are two, three ways. Like one is obviously you have to inform them that, you're shutting the company down, and you have to give them a notice period.
Hmm.
Again, depending on a lot of factors, like how much cash in the bank do you have? Do you have the money to support the infrastructure costs until then? Again, and the right thing to do is, like, if you're running out of cash, don't wait for the very end. Have
Hmm.
like some buffer months so that your customers should get some time to, like find an alternative solution,
Right.
right? So we gave them, I think we gave them a notice of 1.5 months.
Hmm.
And, we also told them, okay, what are the other alternatives they can go for? Or if they want to, set this up internally, this is the process. And of course, we told them if you need any help, we are always here for you. Um, so yeah, that is your third, stakeholder. And your fourth stakeholder is your, vendor. Like whatever vendors you have, taken the services from, make sure that all their bills are paid, all their invoices are cleared, so
Hmm.
that you don't have any missing payment. Uh,
Got it.
so I think these are the four types of stakeholders, and you need to handle each of this process with a lot of care, a lot of grace, uh, and you have to be honest, because people can sense if you're not honest, if you're not authentic, right?
Hmm.
And finally, when all of this is done, you can then announce it publicly. You can thank, your community and your support circle who has always been there for you, because, it takes a village, right? So of
Right.
course, this is your core team, but then you have a larger, group of community at play.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is how basically we went about it.
Got it. I was remembering this company Slack. Probably you know their story as well. They had a
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
journey. They were building products. All of them failed, and eventually they ran out of funding.
yeah.
And then they realized just a few months, probably few days of runway left. They realized that why don't we simply sell the messaging thing that we have built for internally, and that's how a company was formed. But yeah, I mean, that's a rare case. I think it's quite unfortunate that your company got shut down. uh, but I want to ask this, as a founder, do you think you will ever build another company? Do you have plans to become a founder once again, or is it just
Mhm.
one time founder? And then I have seen both things actually. I have seen
Yeah,
people who have gone back to job and they're
yeah,
still doing a job. But I've also
yeah.
met people who say that once a founder, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur, never going to a 9 to 5 job. So what kind
Hmm.
of plan do you have?
I think I am open right now. I am figuring out. Of course, I do want to build again. I'm just not sure if it's immediately or sometime in the future. So that's something
Hmm.
I'm figuring out. I am, doing a lot of introspection and talking to a lot of people to get there. Like if there's a new industry I'm curious about, or a new product I'm curious about, I'm talking to the people who are building the product, or I'm talking to founders in that industry. So I think right now I'm in exploration mode, and I've not really decided what I want to do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, let's see. Once I have clarity, I'll probably, post it on my LinkedIn, and hopefully everyone else will also get to know.
Got it. Tell us about your fundraising experience. I think you have raised good amount of funding in past.
Hmm.
How did you sort of get that funding? Uh, I understand a lot of the funds came even before the MVP was accepted in the market, and there was these days the investors are very cautious. They're only investing in profitable companies who have
Yeah.
a good solid revenue projection for good amount of years. So how did you raise your fund? Which kind of VCs did you reach out to? What were the
Yeah.
questions that you had faced? and how did you sort of convince the investors?
Yeah, sure. So it depends on, what is the stage of the company you are at. The playbook to raise a pre-seed round is a little different from seed, is a little different from Series A, right? Because all of these different stages, you're focusing on different matrix, different KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you're in the pre, and by the way, it's been a while since I did those rounds, so maybe the market landscape looks very different now. A lot of my founder friends who are currently fundraising, they tell me that it's not the same. But I can tell you like some fundamental truths that hold true, despite whatever market you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, when you're fundraising, ultimately, like all VCs, no matter whatever stage of the business, need conviction on two or three things, right? Like, is this a real problem, right? How do you know it's a real problem? Like, has this person validated the idea? Um, does he have a product that people are using? Does he have a product that people are paying? So validation can also come in different stages.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have a product where people are paying, but it's also growing very fast, right? So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, VCs want to know that if you've built a genuine product in a really genuine problem statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that once that is done, the second question that VCs have is how big is the market, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you basically operating in a market that is really big but is crowded, or is small but not that crowded, or is growing fast? And there's again no one size fits all solution to this. It really
Mm-hmm.
depends on what market you've picked, but the rule of the thumb is the market should be big and it should also be growing fast, right?
Got.
And the third idea is essentially whether this is the team that can execute on this idea or on this problem. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have past, proof points of whether you have, let's say, if not built a company, you've demonstrated some sort of exceptional output or
Mm-hmm.
resilience or, leadership. So these are the primary three questions a VC would have. So now your job is depending on what stage of the company to help them, get conviction. So, for example, at a Series A stage, it will only be numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your revenue? How fast are you growing? How much time do people spend on your product? What is your retention? What is your conversion? What are your acquisition channels? Are they, what is your CAC? Like all of these specific questions, right? At the seed stage, it will be a little bit question, a little bit data, a little bit, more on like, do I like the founder or not? Right? Do I like the
Mm-hmm.
founder? Do I like the idea? Do I like the market? Do I like the space? And pre-seed is a little bit more biased towards because, in that case, you might have very little revenue or you might have, just a little early validation, right? So in
Right.
that situation, then it becomes about, okay, like, do I have conviction on this team and this set of founder who can execute really well?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
What worked
ultimately
for you?
is
What worked for you? Your case, I think, was it before your product started getting revenue, or was it after there was a good amount of revenue? How did it play out for you?
yeah. So our first round was a pre-seed round. We didn't have revenue, but we had, we built some POCs that people like some of our customers were using, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that gave our investors the validation that, okay, this is a legit problem and people are using this, and they had really good things to say about our product,
Got it.
right? But in the seed stage, it was like I said, it was a combination of revenue and customers and the team. In the like pre-series A, it was mostly the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, like I said, it totally depends on the stage of the game you are in.
Got it. Uh, Tell us about your dynamics with the co-founder. How did you, first of all, find your co-founder? And I think finding a co-founder is the biggest challenge. If you
Yeah,
ask me, that is the biggest challenge in entrepreneurship, because you need a person who you can trust, who
yeah,
complements your skill sets,
yeah,
and who is equally good at entrepreneurship as you. So
yeah,
how that's pretty difficult to find out, right? Uh,
yeah.
how did it work for you?
Yeah, actually, I met my co-founder in my first internship, like I'd mentioned, right? So we were working on a lot of projects together. So we saw this problem together firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with a lot of young founders is that, they typically choose founders from their college or from their companies, right? And in late stages, people usually choose from their companies, right? Sometimes I've seen, you do it with your uh, cousin, or I've seen people who are brothers who also do that. I've also seen a case where two sisters started a company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's hard to find a co-founder. You're very right about that. I think usually I've seen cases that work really well is when you already have a very deep connection and relationship with that person. And ideally, you've worked with them before. So let's say if
Mm-hmm.
you have not worked with them before, I would highly recommend that, you basically do a trial period where both of you
Mm-hmm.
maybe pick up a project, or if you already have an idea, maybe do like, a POC of the idea together and see like, what it is like to work with them. Like there's so many things you need to know, right? Like do they have the skill sets that they say they have? Are they able to execute fast? Can they take feedback well? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they open to criticism, feedback, right? Are you aligned on the vision and the vision of the company? Like, what are your working styles? Are they same? Are they different? What matters to them? Like, why are they doing this? Why are you doing this? Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, let's say, there should not be a clash in the primary core motivation.
Got it.
Right? So, yeah, these are the things you need to really figure out with whoever your co-founder is. And even if you know them, right? Like getting into a co-founder relationship is like getting married in a way, right? So you need to know all of these
Absolute.
things before you get into that. So you have to really figure out, like spend some time and ask them these questions and reflect on your own as well, and understand why are you doing this and why are they doing this, and
Mm-hmm.
how do you resolve conflicts. Actually, sorry, that is the biggest one. Like tomorrow if there are conflicts, like who would be the final decision maker for what ownership areas, right? And
Mm-hmm.
are they good at resolving conflicts, right? So these are things that you really really need to know.
Got it. And finally, tell us, how does it affect you as a person when your venture is shutting down? A
Mhm.
company that you have built, you've been building for last
Mhm.
5 6 years with love, with passion. I think every founder falls in love with their product they're building,
Mhm.
and when it doesn't work out, it's like a baby, and
Yeah.
baby doesn't work out. How does it affect you as a person? Does it take a hit on the mental health? uh, and tell us about it. What has been your experience?
So actually, what affected me more was being burnt out. So my
Mhm.
situation probably might be a little different. I don't know. Um, I could really see that, I could not focus in meetings, and I
Mhm.
could just not, I was not able to think of ideas, right? Like I could see that I was having blockers in my work and my performance was really dipping, right? So I think
Mhm.
that was the thing that affected me the most. And
Okay.
when we decided to, return the capital, that was my goal, right? That I need to really recover from burnout and I need to recover from this feeling that I have. I need to heal myself. So I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, while it definitely pained me to shut this labor of love, um, I knew that it's not the end of the world, right? Like
Mhm.
you can always start another company, right? But what is the most important thing is that you need to be in the right mindset. Your
Right.
health, your physical health, and your mental health are the most important things, right? So I think I always had that perspective. There were some days which were very, very hard. I'm not going to deny, like, especially the day that we told investors and customers and team. I think those were really, really hard days. And I was well prepared mentally that they were going to be really hard.
Mhm.
There are no two ways about it. But, once all of that settled and I really started to focus on my healing, I think I've been really feeling much better now, you know? Um, and I think one of the biggest things I learned in this journey is that you should not make startup your identity. you know, because it's it's just a part of your life. It's just not completely who you are, right?
Hmm.
Just like you have other parts of your life. So because
Right.
tomorrow if the startup does well, you'll be happy. If the startup
Hmm.
doesn't do well, you'll be sad, right? But the goal is to just detach a little bit from that your startup, and have like multiple identities, not just as a startup
Right.
founder. So this was one of my biggest learnings, and what, if I do decide to start again, I'll probably implement that. I'll try to have life other than work, which I did not for a long time when I was running my own company, because it's
Hmm.
not about the short term game, it's about the long term game, right? And you need to be really, really mentally healthy, mentally sound to play the long term game.
Right. And finally, before we close, I just want to hear a message from you to other entrepreneurs out there who are probably starting out, who are probably in the journey, probably in the highs or lows, but they're all pursuing something. What would be your message to them? How they should probably approach entrepreneurship in general, or maybe if it comes, if one day it happens they have to shut their shop, how they should be prepared for it?
I mean, hopefully this day does not come when they have to shut their shop. They can plan for it much ahead in the in the journey. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if it's about a cash problem, you can do a lot of things. Like you can reduce your burn, you can let go of your team, you can reduce your expenses, you can give up your office. So there's a lot of things you can do, right? In our case, it was more unexpected, so I think that took a little while to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, My advice would be, see, there's a lot of advice already out there. Maybe one thing I would say, which I don't think I came across a lot in my journey, was that while you're, building this company, don't forget to take care of yourself as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Invest in your physical health. Make sure you exercise regularly, sleep well, get into a good lifestyle, have a good set of habits, develop a routine, have a safe space, have people and friends in your life who don't care on whether you're a startup founder or not, right? They should be friends with you not because you're a startup founder, they should just be friends with you because of the person you are. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have friends from college, from your childhood, from your school, most of your friends would be like that, right? Like, to them it does not matter if you've built a multi-billion dollar business or not. So have friends, have family, I mean, have invest in your family, have some hobbies, and while you're doing this grind, it's so intense. Make sure that you come back to all of these spaces that are very sacred, that can give you back the energy to again go out there and fight.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Apart from that, yeah, it's just like the usual, like build something people want, build a kick-ass product.
Mm-hmm.
Like make sure that your customers are really happy. If they're not happy, figure out what you can do to make them happy. Start charging your product much earlier than you think you should. But yeah, these are like common wisdom points, advice that usually just floats around everywhere.
Got it. All right. So we'll now close the session. And as a closing note, I would say that India as a country, we have a culture that doesn't welcome failures. But if you go to Silicon Valley, I think failure is just a routine thing, just like success.
Yeah,
Every startup has a possibility to fail. There
yeah.
is a chance of failure as well. And when you play a game of startup, you have to be always ready to fail. And thanks for being honest and brave about it, for honestly telling everyone openly that we are shutting the shop and doing the right thing about utilizing the funds correctly, returning back the funds to the investors, and paying the employees and everything. So that's a really brave thing to do, and I think it's founders like you who would define the entrepreneurship world in future. And thanks for joining the show. Was a pleasure to have you on our platform.
Thank you. Maybe I would just conclude by saying one last thing, Priya, that I don't even see this as a failure, to be very honest. Maybe if you think about what success is,
Mhm.
um, it could be, I think, if someone would look at my situation, or if they're in the same situation and they would look at it as failure, maybe I would ask them, okay, this journey that they had, did they ever even think they would go down such a long road, right? For example, for me, I didn't even think I'll run a company ever, right? And my
Right.
original plan, like I said, was 6 months, right? So from 6 months, I got to do this for 5.5 years. We got a lot of customers. Our customers loved us. They loved our product. They gave us such good testimonials.
Mhm.
We got to good revenue numbers. We built a really great team. We raised a lot of VC funding. So I definitely don't look at this as failure, right? These are just things, lessons I learned, and when the timing was right, I thought I had to take a pause from it. But it's just a chapter that is ending, right? And I'm sure for all the founders out there, including myself, I'm sure the next
Mhm.
thing that we do is going to be even more kick-ass and more challenging and exciting. So I
Absolutely.
definitely don't look at this as a failure at all.
Absolutely. And I think every founder should welcome failures. By failure, I mean failure product or a startup, because it's part of the game. The more you fail,
Yeah,
more chances you are becoming more resilient, more stronger
yeah,
than ever to be successful in the next try. And as long as you are still trying, you are not um, you know stopping that race in you, then you are always an entrepreneur, and you always have a upcoming venture. Thanks again, Aditi, for
thank you so
joining,
much.
and pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye bye.